believe we've got the Lieutenant Governor on the phone. Let's go right to him. Lieutenant Governor, you there?
I am here. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing great.
Thank you so
much
us.
for your time. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Let's just kind of dig right in. I met you at the NFIB and Mitchell Community College and a roundtable discussion, which you're doing all over the state. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I really enjoyed that and felt like it was a great way for you to connect with small business. So can you just sort of talk about what that program is?
Yeah, the NFIB goes around the state and hosts these small business roundtables for us, and we usually go into community colleges and draw from the small business community in the region, in fact, and we've had great turnouts. Anywhere from 50 to 100 people show up at these breakfast or lunch events, and it's a great way for really two things to happen. One, for us to get the message out about what's been going on in North Carolina over the last 4 years since we've been running the state up there, and then the other part is to listen to the business community. What makes them tick? What are the issues that are important to them? And certainly if there are places where they don't think that government is running as effectively or as efficiently as it should, and we know there's always plenty of those,
sure.
Then they can let us know what is important to them, and hopefully we can take that back and address that in either regulatory reform or policy reform or things like that, so that we continue to make North Carolina a better and better and more friendly business state. And so that's really what the intent is.
And one of the things you said that I really liked, you said, and you were speaking to small business people, the room was full. You said, if you don't tell us, we don't know. And I really thought that statement was really rang true for a lot of small business people in the room. What seems to be some of the most obvious questions that people are asking as you're going around the state?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that we see with small businesses, especially, and there's a lot of folks out there. I mean, you were just kind of talking about it a minute ago about people's entrepreneurial spirits, and they have great ideas and they want to start a business. Capitalization of that business is really tough. And now, with new banking regulations, it's really the small business community that has been hurt the most from the federal government's perspective. And when they tightened the reins back, excuse me, 8 or 9 years ago, that was a big problem for our small businesses. So getting loans, being able to have an effective startup and be able to capitalize, that's probably the number one issue we see.
Dan, this is Wayne. I believe your background, you were a partner in a business, or maybe you still are, and so you know something about running a small business, or at least not a major one, but a smaller business.
Yeah, I'm an architect. That's my background. I did that for 20-some years, and was a partner in the largest architecture firm in the state. So we were a big small business, but still a small business nonetheless. Had to go out and kill everything we ate every single day. Had to make payroll. Had to hire and lay off people during good times and bad times, and so really understand the swings of an economy and really what makes your individual employees tick. And I think that just having that background in government is real helpful. Helping your friends in the legislature who may not have come from that background to understand what it is like to make payroll and what it is like to have to tighten your belt during tough times, and to spend the people's money as if it's yours, and to create a budget and live by that budget. Those types of things I think are real helpful from any business person that jumps into government.
Yeah, and the fact is the choices that you make absolutely affect your lifestyle substantially, and so it really does ring true to a lot of small business people. And if you don't understand that, you just kind of don't get that.
Yeah, and then when you take that and you translate that into government, and you realize that, when the average small business person is thinking about the next $100 or $1,000 that they may make in profit and what they're going to do with that, the government's talking in millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's very easy to start to think of that money not as your own, but as government money. There is no such thing as government money, especially in a place like North Carolina or a state where we don't get to print it. Every dollar that comes into the state government comes from individuals and corporations and really is coming out of the people's pockets. So we've been working really hard over the last 4 years to give more money back to individuals through income tax cuts and through both personal and corporate income tax. You know, we have the lowest corporate income tax in the country right now among states that have a corporate income tax, and our personal income tax is cut almost in half, and we have a flat tax in North Carolina. So everybody in North Carolina, at least based on tax revenue, should see more money in their paycheck.
Because most of us don't know, and I didn't know exactly what the role is of lieutenant governor. Can you kind of describe that? Because we don't really know how you fit into the structure. We may very well supposed to, but we don't. Can you tell us how you fit into the structure of state government?
Yeah, there's no reason that people really should, to be honest. I mean, it's a kind of a different role. It's the only role in the state that's both executive and legislative at the same time. I'm the president of the Senate, so I preside over the Senate when they're in session, so that's kind of your hand in the legislative world, and obviously you're second in command at the executive level of government, so that's your hand in the executive world. And so a lot of the role, you certainly kind of get to choose and make up the things you want to do based on what's important to you, but you also have a lot of duties too. I sit on the State Board of Education, so education is very important to me, and we spend a significant amount of our time in our office dealing with education. I also sit on the Community College Board for the state, Economic Development Board, Military Affairs Commission. I chair the Energy Policy Council, Food Manufacturing Task Force. I mean, there's a lot of those kind of boards and commission things that will significantly take up your time. And then you spend a lot of time traveling the state, doing things like these NFIB roundtables, visiting businesses, visiting schools, and visiting our community colleges to kind of see what's going on out there and what you can do to make the state better. So from an umbrella perspective, having an umbrella view, a high-level view of what makes the state tick and what makes a very diverse state like North Carolina run effectively, it's a great role and a great position to be in.
Yeah, Dan, you had talked about something that I heard you talk a little bit about in a roundtable, and that was education and teachers' pay. And, you know, man, from our end, we hear both ends of this spectrum, and we're not quite sure exactly what's happening with that. Can you fill us in on exactly what's happening with teachers' pay? Because we hear both ends of the spectrum that we're paying them top this great new salary, and then we're also hearing, no, it's not enough. Can you fill us in on that?
Well, it's never going to be enough.
That's a true statement.
You can ask anybody out there; it'll never be enough. I mean, here is the narrative. There's a false narrative by the other side that is complaining about what we've done. Right? Here's the reality. Over the last 3 sessions, we have increased teacher pay. I mean, we had the largest raise in the United States of America for teachers last year. You can't deny those facts. You can't deny that starting teachers used to make $30,000 a year. Now they make $35,000 a year. That's what teachers told us we needed to do. We needed to boost that entry-level teacher pay. We've given them raises. We've given them bonuses. We've created more teacher positions in North Carolina. We've reduced class sizes in North Carolina. We spend more money on K-12 education than we've ever spent in the history of our state. I mean, those things are just facts. They may be annoying to our opponents, but they're still just facts. And so here, what the narrative is it's not enough. You need to do more. Well, let's back up 4 years. Let's back up 10 years. What was going on the other side? They weren't doing any of that. You know, 4 years ago, I had a little debate with a teacher the other day. I said, listen, we've never said we're done. We've never said there's enough. Nobody has ever said enough is enough here. We just said, listen, we are doing what we can do within the budget that we have, and you have been the beneficiaries of what the excess has been in government over the last 4 years. The teachers have. Not all the other state employees, not the highway patrol, folks like that also would like to have a raise too. The teachers have been the beneficiary of that. So the fact that there's all this discontent and all this discussion now and all this debate from the media and everybody else about what's enough, that wasn't happening 4 years ago. Yeah. I'll ask teachers, so were you complaining about teacher pay 4 years ago? Why not? Because it's a lot worse than it is today. So why weren't you complaining about it then? Were you complaining when the Democrats cut $1.25 billion out of the budget in 2010? Did I hear anybody complaining about that? No. So why are you complaining when we put $2 billion back into K-12 education, spend more than we've ever spent before? So you may argue about how much is enough, but you can't argue about who has done a better job.
Sure.
Dan, how would you describe the North Carolina environment for small business? I don't know if you can compare it with other states, but what's your impression about how good a place North Carolina is for small business?
Well, I mean, I think, small business makes up the majority of business in the state. And so if you look at the last 15 years and know that we have grown by 2 million people over the last 15 years, that's probably enough said. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing states in the country. We're the 9th largest state. We're one of the largest economies in the world. Our GDP is growing faster than the rest of the country. We're at 15.8% compared to 11.4% for the rest of the nation. We've created 300,000 new jobs over the last few years. I think that's enough said. I think the environment is good. North Carolina is a great place to live because of the environment, because of the geography, because of the cost of living. But I believe it's because of the people too. And we just have a really good thing going on here, and people want more of it. And so that's why business continues to grow in North Carolina. Is there more we can do? Absolutely there is. And that's why we've been working on tax reform. We're the only state in the country to do comprehensive tax reform a few years ago, and every state just about in the country tried it, but we were the only one that was successful. We moved from 44th in the nation in the Tax Foundation's rankings. That's near last, pretty close to last, 44th to 15th. That's the largest one-year leap ever in Tax Foundation history. And so, again, we cut the sales tax, we cut the income tax, and when we cut the income tax, believe it or not, income revenues for the state went up. Why? Because it helped create jobs. Creates certainty in the market. It allows businesses to, invest in their companies, invest in their employees, and grow. And that's what we want to do. So we've seen the economy start to turn around, and there's still a lot of work to do. So nobody's claiming victory here, but we're saying we're moving in the right direction for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and Dan, I'm a small business broker, so I help people buy and sell small businesses, and my database, 60% of it is filled with people wanting to buy businesses that live out of state and want to move to North Carolina. So you guys are doing something right that 60% of my inquiries are coming from out of state.
Well, that's great. That's great news. It's the first time I've actually heard that. Of course, I haven't met a lot of small business brokers, but that is a really good thing. And I think that people can look around the country, and you can look to states that have been successful. And I'm a firm believer, because I talk to my colleagues out there across the country, I'm a firm believer that nobody in the country, there's not a state that has a greater success story than North Carolina right now over the last handful of years.
Dan, thank you so much. I know you've got to go. We really do appreciate your time. I want to make a special shout out to NFIB. I cannot tell you how much I encourage any small business person, if they get a chance, to come to NFIB and your roundtable talks. It was just a great thing, and I just really enjoyed, and I know the small business people in the room, and I probably knew half of them, just really appreciated the time that you gave them. So, and we certainly appreciate you giving us the time here for on our show, my friend. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, and anytime you want to chat about something going on in the state, give me a call. I'll be happy to join you.
Thank you, sir.
Day.
Thank you so much.